everyone, welcome to yet another episode of GenAI Vlog. So I got an interesting episode today. I thought to take this episode to kick off another round of application to Agentic AI. And today we're going to be talking about a small demo of this new package called Wing Agent. So previously we talked about Wing Agent X, which is a more rigorous platform to allow user to deploy their own agentic AI framework. Now, this episode, we're going to be talking about a slightly easier yet powerful interface to create their agentic AI framework, in a sense that we are going to actually be using Mistral AI agent. So here's a package, it's pip installable, here's a link, and then you can use this to essentially download the package to run your own code. So in this demo, to demonstrate you how the agent works and to create the code and execute on our behalf using natural language, we're going to be going into a notebook such as this. And then the goal is to think about this agent as some sort of data scientist, right? That's the task. What do I mean by that is, for example, on the left-hand side, maybe you have a sample data, and then maybe you have some sort of training data. I have this file here called California Housing Training Data. You open that, it's a Excel spreadsheet, it's a CSV file. There are rows and columns, but I don't know much about it. Then what you're supposed to do? Well, you can open a CSV by yourself if you want to. You can write a code if you want to, or you can hand that job to a data scientist or data engineer. Say, hey, look, ingest this data to your notebook, plot a couple of plots, tell me what's in this data set. So that is the task that we're going to walk through today in hand. And the video today is to show you that you actually don't need to go to a data scientist to do any of that. So with that being said, let's execute this code. Let's see how it goes. So I'm going to execute the code. It says start chatting. And if you want to quit the program, just type in exit. So what I'm going to do is grab the path. So I'll say copy path. And I can say I have a CSV file in this path. I want you to write a Python code to print out the rows and columns and the column names. You hit enter. And then let's make this a little bit bigger. At the moment, it's actually going to make an API call to Mistral AI agent. The code agent will actually take the command that human enter as instructions and come up with a code that's appropriate for this particular task. So let's examine this code a little bit. Import panda as PD, and then this function here called read CSV and print info. The import argument is a path, and that makes total sense because that's what I want to do. And I set that in the prompt, right? If you don't say this in the prompt, the function is probably going to miss out on this input argument. And then additionally, it's actually going to try to do a couple of things, which is here says read the CSV. It's going to want to print out the rows, columns, things like that. And then last but not least, you print out the column names. So at least we get a global view of what this data look like without having to open this Excel spreadsheet ourselves or hand that data over to a data engineer. So after the function is defined, now you just invoke the function, right? So this code is here. It sounds like, and it looks like the code is correct. And then, of course, you can read the explanation, things like that. But you also want to execute, right? Because without execution, how do we know that this code is running as it's supposed to do? So let's continue, right? The chatbot and this specifically this agentic framework here is designed to ask the user, hey, what do you want to say, right? Let's give a name. So let's open our directory. And then I'm just going to say test1. This is going to physically save a script. I'm going to say also execute a script, yes or no, right? So capital Y, that means yes. And then boom, here you go. You can see that there's a test1.py script being created on the left-hand side. And then on top of that, we can see the number of rows is 17,000, number of columns is 9, and then the number of and then the column names are so on and so forth. It's being displayed here. Now it's up to human knowledge, right? If you want to, you can predict longitude, although I would argue that's probably not that interesting. You can predict median age for the houses, probably not that interesting. It will be more interesting if you can predict the housing value, right? So that, of course, comes from human knowledge, right? That's a decision that the human has to make. So if that's the case, then maybe we can continue from there. I can say, I want a linear regression model from scikit-learn to be added to the code above, use, and I want to set a target, right? Maybe it's the median housing value because I find that a little bit more interesting. So I say use median housing value as target variable and the rest of the column to be features. Print out coefficients and statistical results for me. So I hit enter. It's going to try to read this command that I just gave, and then trying to hopefully update the function that we have above to not just to print out rows, columns, names, right? To also actually carry out a particular data science task. In this case, is to build a linear regression model. So let's see what the code gives us. So now that we have the code done, let's just briefly examine the code a little bit. We have a function here that's coming from the previous code. It's still being here, not touched. Additionally, we have a new function. It says fit linear regression model, great. And then it takes panda data frame as an input. So from here, it actually takes what I said in the prompt and use that to set up the instructions to define the target variable, which is the y, and the features, which is the x. Now, what I actually said in the prompt was to use the median housing value as a target variable and the rest of the column to be features. Now, it actually is able to figure out to set x to be basically the entire data frame, except for the median housing value, and then y to be exactly the column of median housing value. So once you have x and y, the rest should be easy, right? You import the scikit-learn linear regression, which is a function here, and then you can fit the model. And after you fit the model, obviously you want to print out the results, right? So the coefficients, intercept, and then the statistical results, maybe it's a mean square error, maybe it's R square. These are good things to know when people are running linear regression model. So once they run that, obviously print out the results, things like that. And then here we have an exception just to make sure that if we're going to fail this function, we want to fail gracefully, right? It doesn't really break the code. So now these functions have been defined. The rest of the task is simple. It's just a matter of running these functions, right? Invoking these functions. So it sounds like the script is doing everything that we want. Great. Now we move forward, right? We want to execute it. So let's give a name. In this case, I'm going to say test2, just to be a little bit different from test1. I hit enter. And then do you want to execute a script? Capital Y means yes. I hit enter. And then it's going to try to execute it. Let's refresh it on the left-hand side. You can see that the test2.py is generated, and it's taking the code that we have above. Additionally, we not only have rows and columns, column names, now we also have the coefficients from linear regression, the intercept, the mean square error, and the R square. So there you go, folks. We just used a code agent to create a code for us and serve as the role of a data scientist to give us the results that usually in the old days, a data scientist will give us. And to finish this up, you can say exit, and I will execute, and I will exit this code. And as you can see that the script is all here. And then we're not really losing everything, right? Because all the code that's being ran, it's saved on the left-hand side. So if you want to examine test2.py, you can simply open that, and then the code is here. You can take this as given, you can then pack it, you can do something else with it, you can edit it yourself and rerun it. You have a record. So you're not completely lost of, hey, where does the result come from? Well, it's coming from here, right? That's the helper function for handling the data. That's the helper function for fitting the model. And then in the end, we execute. Here's a file path. So we know that it's actually running the code on the data set that I want, not some random data set that I found. So there you go. Hopefully you like this episode. Hopefully this episode give you a small, interesting use case of the Agentic AI framework. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.